Night Star, Light Star, A True Love by Switch Down. A long time ago, for exactly 900 years ago, in a distant part of northern Equestria lived a couple, or at least two different ponies. A unicorn and a pegasi by the name Light Star and Night Star. Both were very common friends in with their community. Night Star was actually working as a teacher. Well, at least as a sort of teacher, studied and even taught about the new children. Even Light Star, he was working with the local weather team to take care of the weather and even worked as a part-time as a farmer. They had crossed paths a few times in the past, but they were also just good friends. But all this was not always that. For about a year earlier, then something did happen. Light Star and Night Star, who just has been good friends for many years, suddenly had a big fight. They didn't speak to each other or even want to see each other for nearly as long as possible. And it took a year for them to even speak to each other again. But by then, they had almost forgot exactly what caused this friendship almost to break apart. And exactly what happened, none of the other friends even remembers. Not even the families remember. But something did happen to Night Star one day. Light Star was going to be seeing her friend, but when she got there, she noticed a note on his door saying that he would be home, that he had left home and left the community for out traveling. She was very surprised because, of course, she had mentioned that he wanted to see the rest of Equestria one day. But since we had been taught him being part of a teacher in their community, he had never had the opportunity to even to do that. Because being a teacher is very consuming a lot of time and even work. But this time he actually decided to do it. He told the other teachers that he's going to take a break off from his work. So he packed a saddlebag and just left middle of the night. He wanted to tell Light Star, but deep down he could not do it because if he did, she would never probably forgive him. So he left middle of the night, just leaving that note. And she was not even betrayed because he said that he'd be back before the summer was end. And she knows that he would. But even that deep down she missed him a lot. But she knows that he will be back. But during his travels, he traveled a lot of Equestria, more than to the northern borders of where the current Crystal Empire, and even traveled to nearly to the border to Saudi Arabia, to the Griffin Stones. But everywhere he went, he saw a lot of new things. Met new ponies, met new cultures, but most of all, he met a lot of great friends out there. He didn't study, he didn't work, for not any at all. But he did some work, but only to earn some money on his travels, and even kept a journal. He wrote down a page per page for everything he saw on his travel, like when he met new things he had been seeing, and new ponies that he'd been friendly with, and also he draw some things that he'd seen over all his travels. But he even sent some messages or letters back home to Light Star. In one of those letters, he told her that every time he saw the sky with its blue eye, with its blue color, with the dancing clouds, it reminded us of her. And she thought that so romantic by mentioning that. But then, suddenly in one of the letters, he actually mentioned to her that he actually loved her. He had actually admitted his deepest feelings for her, and that also said that he was too afraid to telling her because he had no idea how she would react to these feelings about him, because he didn't know if she liked him back the same way. But after all, they had just been good friends, so he thought best than telling her now and ever keep silent. But what he didn't know exactly that she had also been having feelings for him back over the past few years. But she was equally afraid of telling him because of that. She thought that this revealing the secret to him would have caused another fraction or another deep rift between their friendship, and it could probably end it. She was afraid of telling him, and so she kept it a secret for herself, not telling this for her family or friends. But there were just another thing that was causing this. Lystar's family, especially her parents, were not so much fond about her friendship with Nightstar. And his parents, well, especially his father, was actually not abused, because he had actually some sort of argument between Lystar's parents, and that they have been informed that they should not be involved with each other, not as friendship or as romantic involvement. It would only cause more problems for them and the families. Belonging to two different clans of families, they thought that Lystar's family thought they were more superior or maybe much better than unicorns. Even though this peace between all the three kinds of opponents has been for the past nearly 900 years, but there still some part of the question where some opponents still doesn't even trust another kind of opponents. But that didn't make sense, because Lystar and Nightstar, they didn't care about that old superstitious about who is better than who, because they liked each other, they're friends, and they sense just. Lystar had once said to her father, "I don't care what you think. Nightstar is my friend, and he likes me and I like him, and we will always be friends, no matter what you say. If that makes you angry, well, good for you." So that means that after she said that, she actually moved out from her father's house and moved to a friend. And Nightstar, he said the same thing to his parents, and he did the same thing, because he knew that they would probably throw him out because we spoken against them. But he actually moved to another friend and stayed there. And his friend had no problem letting his friend stay there. But over this time on his travels, on his journeys, but one day, the letters stopped coming to back home. And Lystar at first thought maybe that the post office would take a little bit of time to get there, so she didn't care. She didn't mind if the letters take a little bit of time, because it would not be the first time, because sometimes it took nearly a few days, nearly a week before the letters came there. But this time, a few days passed, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then 4 weeks, a nearly entire month without any letters from her friend. And she was getting worried. She told her friend that if she doesn't receive any kind of message from Nightstar, she will go out in the world to find him, no matter how much time it takes, or even if she never comes back. But the day before she decided to go, even if it not to receive, in the morning, she had a package. And this was actually from Nightstar. Nightstar explained why he hasn't been running any letters to her for the past 4 weeks. He has been sick very lately, and he has not much strength in much. But over the past few days, before the package actually arrived, he has been feeling much better and started writing a letter but even sending something special. She opened a package, and inside was actually his journal. He had actually filled in the entire journal with writings like a diary and even some small drawings about things I've been seeing. She was so excited to read this. She even read the same page over and over. By the time he came back, she had been reading that same journal for nearly almost 20 times. She read the same pages, maybe has 5 pages or nearly 10 pages, nearly 3 times over and over. And her friends has suddenly started to notice that she actually knew something was more different about her. And she then asked if she perhaps had any feelings for Nightstar, and she explained that she did. But she promised not to telling him because she was afraid if he didn't like her back in the same way. And her friends promised not to tell. But when he came back, she noticed how much different he were. He was more generous, more charming than ever, and even spent time talking to his friends, telling them about things he'd been seeing, but most of them didn't even believe what he had been seeing. But Lightstar actually showed them the journal. So even showing some of the pictures and the drawings that he made. But he also said one of his friends on his travels is actually coming for visit within the next couple of weeks. And over the time, his friends still didn't even believe him. But then, suddenly, one day, a stranger, or at least a group of strangers, arrived to this small town. Most of the police there was very curious, a little bit skeptical who these ponies were, but Nightstar immediately recognized them. One of them was actually Prince Hassan from the village Senegal. A prince, a royalty, has been and entered their town, but that was actually more than a secret, because he had actually been asking Prince Hassan to come to his village, to his town, for a special occurrence, for a special event. When he did arrive, Nightstar actually proposed to Lightstar. And when both the families heard about this, they were so in shock. But they didn't care if it happened. Prince Hassan actually been invited to be the one to perform the ceremony. And they did actually perform in the summer's last day, in the summer midday. Well, they invited their parents, including that. But during the wedding, both their parents just looked at each other without saying a word, but then they actually buried the axe and became friends. Some magical way made them to figure out how to work this out, and then it worked out perfectly. Including them, Prince Hassan has actually then invited both Nightstar and Lightstar to celebrate the honeymoon in his village for about 2 weeks in his palace as his royal guests. And both of them was very surprised. Even Nightstar, because he didn't expect this kind of gift. So only a day after the wedding, they actually went there with Prince Hassan, and it was a perfect day. But something did happen. A few months after this wedding, they came back home, and after a few months after the wedding, Lightstar announced to both of the families that she is pregnant. And a few months later, they had a daughter, but to both most surprise, when they discovered that their daughter had a unicorn horn and wings. Wings and a horn. Both the families were stunned. Lightstar had given birth to an alicorn. Has never been seen before. They named her Galaxy Star. And she was so beautiful. She was so talented in magic. Both her parents were still unbelievable, couldn't even understand. Because both their families had never had any alicorn in the family line. Because Lightstar's family has always been Pegasi, and even Nightstar's has only been unicorns, except his great 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 grandfather, who was unusual as an earth pony, but still nothing as this unusual. But only a few years later, they had another daughter, which they named Starry Star. And Starry Star, she was actually born as a Pegasi. But they became very good friends. But over time, something did happen. Galaxy Star, at some point much later on, she left her family because of as much an argument between her parents, and this was made that Starry Star believed that her older sister abandoned her and her family and never came back. Without knowing what's happening to her, their older daughter, they regret this fight over the years, and they try to find her, but not in avail. They never found her at all. But it did take nearly 1,000 years later when Galaxy Star and Starry Star actually returned back home. They returned to their small hometown, which still much is still alive and today. They founded their family's tombstone, the family grave at the cemetery, and Galaxy Star said she was sorry, but she just ran away, and she hoped that at least her parents will now know that she's safe and she has a family of her own, and that her younger sister and she has been very good friends and ever close ever since. And they hope never to have the same problem with their own families one day. And that's how Lightstar found the true love got a family. The end.